place. However, they are trying to put as many bogus charges on him as possible so they can arrest him here in the U.S. This is imperialism in action, treating migrants as expendable bodies, disposable labor, and tools of terror against the working class. What we see is a coordinated strategy between U.S. imperialism and the Bukele regime to outsource the dirty work of repression and to criminalize the poor. The U.S. funds want to support regimes like Bukele because they serve Wall Street, not the Salvadorian people. And what's more disgusting is descent. Both of his parents are from Palestine. They are both from Bethlehem, Palestine, the place where Jesus Christ was born. And what does he do? He sides with Israel every step of the way. So not only has he betrayed the Salvadorian people, but he's also betrayed his Palestinian roots. Are we okay with that? So why would we trust a man who doesn't even care about his own people back in Palestine? To think that he's going to care about Salvadorian people? Absolutely not. He is selling out his country. He is selling out his people to this administration and any administration now who is willing to offer him as much money as possible. He's not helping the Salvadorian people. He's lining his pockets right now as we speak. As he supports Salvadorians, as he supports people who aren't even from El Salvador, and to keep them there in prison for as long as possible with many humanitarian rights against them. We're going to keep standing for that? No! And that is why we say from Palestine to Mexico, all the walls have got to go. That is why we must stand in solidarity with all immigrants, with all people that are being injustice right now. To Mexico, all the walls have got to go. From Palestine to Mexico, all the walls have got to go. Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Oh, guys, thank you.
Thank you, Trevor, for highlighting the importance of never forgetting where you come from and not forgetting or normalizing the things that we've seen. Are we going to stop
Henry 17, call Utah checking.
in anger and despair just because they changed their tactics? That's right. So don't be afraid just because they break the only rules that they've set in place. This would be a moment for all of us to come out and respond accordingly.
The end of
Or
this
they
month,
try to silence us, the louder
2011 red BMW. Here, 91.
Attention Lakewood units 137 requesting 3 additional units code 3 to the DC on the Lama Boulevard. It's 5803 unit response. 132 response to 132. Additional unit 134 out of 10 seconds. 10 seconds also respond to 3. Any area units at 14 Lakewood or Shane, that's my area unit 14 Lakewood Shane, that's 14. Any area unit dispatch 14. You're up down. And 137, just confirm this is for traffic. Any Lakewood unit to advise the units needed were for traffic control only. Confirm no Lakewood units involved. Or either you 97?
36 on your negative, still stuck in traffic.
Vehicle 130 standby by code for Adam, 1022. Any further code 3 responses? Again, 1022. Any code 3 responses to Del Amo. Take over to. Liquid Unit Station 132, someone advising code 4902 T on Del Amo. Fires on scene and handling this code 4.
At this point in time, but maybe about 15 minutes ago, there was a minor scuffle where we saw some federal agents and some of the folks out there breaking out into some sort of argument. There was some pepper spray that was being used on some of the folks out there, but as of right now, it doesn't look like there are any violent encounters or any arguments breaking out. But we have been monitoring this throughout the morning. People have been showing up for the past couple of hours or so. Everything remaining relatively peaceful, but of course, this is the third day that we're seeing the tensions escalate with protests or confrontations. We've seen this in a number of different areas across LA County and Paramount, as well as Compton, downtown Los Angeles. You can see the California National Guard there on the ground. They have batons ready. They also have shields ready as they protect the federal building. And we're being told this is where people who have been detained are being kept. So we're watching this live, where we're seeing how this is all developing on this third day. We're getting pictures both on the ground as well as up in the air. You can see protesters out there holding signs, chanting. We have media who are mixed in with the crowd, making sure that you get a good perspective of what's happening there on the ground. But we are watching this, seeing how this all plays out. This could be a matter of minutes or hours before this crowd disperses, and we will see if this remains peaceful for the rest of the afternoon here on this Sunday.
So what is your hope for being out here today?
Really, to educate other people that are passing by, to get them on board.
Right now, it also looks like traffic is being affected there on the streets, obviously, with all the people blocking some of the roadways there.
Illegal things going on in this country right now. And if they're not paying attention or not paying attention to the correct sources, they probably don't even know it. So hopefully this will.
But this is all coming after President Trump has deployed 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles, and Governor Newsom, Mayor Karen Bass, they both objected to this, saying that this will only escalate tensions with these ICE raids happening in our area.
Anything I left out you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Can I get your name?
Tiz Arnold.
Tiz Arnold. How do you spell that?
T-I-Z.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Excuse me. Can I take your picture? Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Tell me about why you're out here today.
I'm out here to teach my daughter her freedom of speech and to stand up for our ancestors and our family that is currently trying to be here. And
so on the right
work
side of your
hard
screen, you're
and
taking a look at video
great
from a little bit
things and
earlier
make
this
America
afternoon.
great.
This is the confrontation that I was mentioning with
Tell me
some
about why that's
folks
important for
and federal agents clashing a bit.
My upbringing,
there was
my family,
pepper spray that was being used, some
my
non-lethal
family's from
weapons as
Mexico.
well, to
They
kind
came
of
here, they
disperse
built
the
life
crowd.
here, and
That
I know Mexico,
all
I
died
know
down
San
within a matter
Antonio, I
of
know
minutes.
America.
So right now we're not
And
seeing any of that
important for me to
happening.
be
Again,
out
the
here,
right side of
so
your screen, that is not our live
generations
picture. That
behind me
happened
can have that chance.
within the last half hour or so, but you can see flashbangs, pepper spray,
I hope
non-lethal
the
weapons
wrongful
to disperse
deportation
that
stop.
crowd.
Anybody who's trying to make a living
The left
here,
side of your
who
screen is what we're seeing at this point in time. Right now, it looks like the perimeter is holding, and no one is getting violent on either side of this issue.
And if we being here is a little step in that direction.
But we are still seeing some remnants on the ground there from some confrontations over the last few days. Again, this is the third day that we're
I want them
seeing
to know
protesters out
that
here
I honestly
with
was debating on
signs
coming because I
and
didn't think that anybody was going to show today.
protesting outside the federal building here. We're watching to see if anything
However,
else develops on this afternoon, but the right side of your screen, you can
1046 South Glenlock Avenue. Foreman states his wife was at location moving his property from his room. Yelling heard in the background is permanent police line. There are multiple units. Was there a unit with emergence? Compton to HC David, I copy your air request for very West Hollywood unit with traffic. Plus 11, I do something tonight, so it's on the 5. Any air unit dispatch line Compton, Rhea 514A, any air unit dispatch line. For ABD. An air is going to be done. And it's 137 near the handle and entrances on the 415 Stanley 16545. Glenwood Street, Stormic Sister Newman Hall. At property, not supposed to get location due. This is our against the informant, NFD tag 133, and you can take basis.
platform, Steve Shirt out of Camps walked up to the informant's white sedan and smashed the window with the black 417. He is near the dead end of the homeless encampment near the wash, and is named in the call time 128. And 25 out of Miami assist. Contact Union Station 261, amazing code 48594 now, 217 East Palmdale, code 1.
See a little heated as they use smoke bombs there.
The more it shows those who are
Media on the ground.
that we can always have the oppression, and the oppression can always be on our side.
Anything you want to add or lift up?
Viva la raza.
Let me get your name.
Kelsey.
Kelsey, what's your last name?
So unit code 310.
How do you spell those?
K-E-L-S-E-Y.
I'm sorry, ma'am, re-identify.
Alright, thank you.
I'd say there are about 300
62 is an 8 unit left.
people or so that have come out to protest in front of the building.
Diesel units on your 417, Folsom and Lopez.
And again, so far, no violent encounters, no major violent encounters so far this afternoon, just a few scuffles, and no arrests made so far according to our reports. I mean, Saturday night's protest outside the federal building, there were 11 arrests made, and those were primarily for failure to disperse once the order was given for an unlawful demonstration. Right now we are also patching in Bruce Thomas. He's one of our experts here to weigh in. Bruce, what do you make of what we're seeing here at this scene in front of the federal building in downtown Los Angeles?
Coming up from Baldwin Park area, situated around 47 X-ray and we're towards 110, crowd of outfits there. Very unable to
Sheriff Luna would make the request to the governor would approve the request, and then dispatch the National Guard. And what the president has done is circumvented, I believe it's Title 10, which is the chain of command. So there are some issues with that. The other thing, too, I know the Secretary of Defense, he wants to bring in the Marine Corps. Well, you can't have American troops on the direction. So I'm just kind of bringing up our viewers to see what's going on and what the change is kind of
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your input and insight on all of this, because it really paints the picture for how different the situation is in terms of deployment with the National Guard, possibly the Marines according to the Secretary of Homeland Security. So it's good to see that. But what do you make of the scene right now? I mean, earlier we saw a bit of a scuffle, some confrontation with folks.
Yeah, you know, the National Guard, if they are on federal property and having done a lot of protests in West LA, you have to be right on the property under a mutual agreement. You just cannot just station yourself on federal property. They have the Federal Protective Police, Homeland Security, and I'm assuming ICE also to do that. But you know, the other thing too is everybody has a First Amendment right to protest. When you start throwing stuff and vandalizing, then it gets a little out of control, and then the First Amendment right kind of takes a back seat to how dangerous the situation could be.
Thank you for your continued coverage here. I wonder if we can just take a look at this wide shot as we look at the Royal Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles. This is now day 3 of unrest in downtown LA. In response to ICE raids and Department of Homeland Security movements, we saw problems in Paramount, we saw problems in Compton, and again last night in downtown Los Angeles. Things have been tense. There are crowds gathering. We know there's another demonstration set for 2 o'clock today at LA City Hall, not too far from this location. And of course, things different now because the National Guard has been deployed and federalized by President Trump. It is something that Governor Newsom did not disagree with when he revealed that Trump and his administration were taking over 2,000 soldiers from the National Guard. He said this was the wrong mission. This is the wrong move. It's just going to escalate tensions. And we also heard from LA Mayor Karen Bass, who said she was willing to work with the Trump administration or anybody, but that this was unnecessary in this situation. So it is definitely an odd move for this to happen without the governor's approval and cooperation. And are you seeing anything, Bruce, as we bring you back in here, anything that seems out of the ordinary other than the background that what you've been talking about, the manner in which these troops have been deployed here?
Well, you know, if you're going to deploy the National Guard, typically they're going to do what is known as property protection and structure protection. They're a visible presence. Now, as far as handling traffic, crowd control, vandalism, crime, that's what LAPD is going to deal with on a tactical alert basis because they're in the city of LA. If it gets to a point where they can't handle what's going on, then their mutual aid, they will request the LA County Sheriff's Department. So I'm not sure what the mission of the National Guard is.
Right. We saw the LAPD come in last night and kind of handle the situation. Can I ask you, so these people have taken over or are just standing in the street in downtown Los Angeles. Are these people breaking a law right now by being here if they're not being told to disperse or if they're being told to disperse? What's the line here? Whether these folks we see in the roadway are breaking a law?
Yeah, I mean, are they breaking the law? Yeah. It's a pedestrian hazard in the roadway. It's a citation. So, you know, and typically we have allowed with protesters, we've actually met with them and said, okay, what do you want to do? I want to take over the intersection. All right, great. We're going to facilitate that for you to get your point across and make sure it's all safe. So in essence, are they breaking the law, the spirit of the law, the letter of the law? Yes. But in reality, are you going to go in and clear them out? Not yet.
Right. As someone with such a deep background in law enforcement, I've been curious these last 48, 72 hours, that point in which the call goes to clear out a section. So if this situation were to change and the National Guard or officers wanted to move in and say clear this roadway, what is something from a law enforcement perspective? Because from the outside, that's the moment where things kind of turn very dangerous, where the crowd begins to scatter. You have a large number of people gathered here, and if the order goes out to break up this crowd, it's going to cause a panic and it's going to cause some problems. So where is the line that the officers draw here on where they want to maintain kind of a peaceful situation, even if, as you said, by the letter of the law, these folks are breaking the law, but they don't want to cause a panic and don't want to send people running in a large crowd, especially with traffic still going by, in what could turn into an incredibly dangerous situation.
Yeah, it's a multi-layered event. First thing you have to do is secure the area from vehicular traffic. Cars driving in and out is a problem for everybody. Once that's done, you set up the areas you want to close off, and you have to give everybody an escape route. This is the way we want you to go. So, you know, at that point, does it become a problem? Is it a nuisance for everybody? Is there vandalism being committed? Is there robberies and thefts going on in local merchants? And then you say, you know what, okay, enough's enough. We gave you your First Amendment right to do what you want, and now we're done.
Yeah, we can see some graffiti on the federal building there. We see, I believe these are both live pictures, one from Air 7 and the other one from the ground. And we do obviously apologize for any profanity that we're seeing on a lot of these signs. Right now we are streaming online, and so that is just kind of comes with the territory when we're giving you the true picture of what's happening here on the ground. But at this point, things seem to have calmed down from where they were. From what we could tell, it seemed like someone from the back of this crowd may have thrown a projectile, and then they fire tear gas, and that winds up affecting those in the front of the crowd who may not have had anything to do with anything being thrown. So I don't know what order has been given out here. How much, Bruce, in a situation like this, how much restraint is advised for these Guards members and the police in a situation where you do have something thrown? You could have one agitator blow up the whole thing and kind of ruin what had been a peaceful demonstration.
Correct. And what I've been kind of is the use of the less lethal weaponry. It seems like a very willy-nilly spirit by the feds to just fire paintball rounds at them, fire rubber bullets at people. You have to have some sort of threat to do that. I mean, yeah, are there agitators in the crowd? Actually, there are, and it's a shame for them to ruin something which is a First Amendment right.
Do you have a lot of experience with the National Guard? What kind of soldiers are we talking about here? I'm sure it ranges, it varies pretty greatly in age, but how about a lack of experience? Is that something that could be a concern with some of these soldiers who are out there as compared to some LAPD officers who we've seen handle the situation last night?
Yeah, most of the National Guard, like LAPD and LASO, they are required to go through multiple hours of riot control training. That means, how to move a crowd, how to an arrest circle, to deal with an agitator. So the experience is there. How long they've been in the Guard, that's another question. But they do receive many hours of training throughout the year in civil unrest, because that is the National Guard's primary duty.
Yeah, tension levels must be pretty high. Even when things are calm like this, you see every once in a while a demonstrator will approach the line, just kind of provoking and doing whatever they can to get a rise out of that line of soldiers and officers in tactical gear. This seems like a tough spot for anyone to be in. It's not an enviable situation to be in no matter what side you're on. No matter who you're advocating for, to face a crowd like this, and when you're advocating for peace, and you just want things to calm down, it's a tough spot to be in as a human.
Yeah, unfortunately, you've got people like that, like you just mentioned, who kind of poke the bear. They're trying to get a reaction. And once that reaction goes, sometimes you can control it, sometimes you can't. And that's why in any skirmish line, you have what's called linebackers. And their job is to keep the integrity of the line, make sure no one gets out of control. And if somebody, an officer, National Guard, whatever, gets a little heated, their responsibility is to pull them out of the line and replace them. Basically, they'll have a timeout.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we hope that we don't have to see any of that put into play here and things remain calm. Bruce Thomas, thanks so much. I think we'll wind up checking in with you throughout the afternoon, but thank you for your help and assisting us in our coverage of what's going on in downtown. Okay, are we going to wrap this up? Okay. We want to thank you for joining us for this streaming coverage of the unrest that continues in downtown Los Angeles. Again, we are expecting another rally to be held at 2 o'clock at City Hall. We will see if that converges with this demonstration outside the Royal Federal Detention Center, which is just a couple blocks away. And it has been the site of unrest for the last 3 days now. Friday night it began. It was all day tomorrow in Paramount, in Compton, and again back here at Roybal. And we're seeing it here again today. We are live on the air at 3:30 this afternoon for Eyewitness News. But if we have to break in, if anything else happens, we will bring it to you live on our stream, ABC7.com, ABC7 Los Angeles app, and on social media as well. We want to thank you for joining us. And remember, you can get your news anytime, 24 hours a day on our website, our app, or social media.
And now at 8, breaking news. President Trump ordering the National Guard to deploy to Southern California in response to unrest and violence against federal immigration enforcement.
Tonight, the White House says it's deploying 2,000 National Guard troops to L.A., saying, quote, the Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for criminal behavior and violence, especially when that violence is aimed at law enforcement officers trying to do their jobs.
And Governor Newsom responding, saying, quote, the federal government is taking over the California National Guard and deploying 2,000 soldiers in Los Angeles, not because there is a shortage of law enforcement, but because they want a spectacle. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Marines at Camp Pendleton are also on standby at this hour to respond if necessary.
Let's get live to KCAL News reporter Zach Boetta, who's been in Compton all day, where protesters have been facing off with law enforcement after setting a car on fire. Zach.
Hey guys, in the last hour, deputies have since moved up Alondra closer to the 710 freeway on-ramp. They're now staged there and holding off protesters. Here behind me at the intersection that we've been standing at almost all day, Alondra and Atlantic is basically now turned into a takeover where people are running and riding bikes and dirt bikes through the intersection. There's been a lot of trucks doing donuts here. Over to our left here, you can see that a security camera has been pushed over on this telephone pole. A lot of graffiti all over the businesses here in the intersection of Alondra and Atlantic, including Dave's Donuts here, an iconic location here in Compton. But as it turns to night here, protesters at this intersection have started to settle down a little bit. And again, deputies have since moved toward the 710 freeway. Here we go with a car doing donuts here at the intersection. That same intersection is the one you're looking at now, where the car caught fire. There was a white Kia that came into the intersection a few hours ago, caught fire, and that set off a lot of mayhem here in Compton. Fireworks from the protesters toward the deputies. Deputies then shooting pepper balls at protesters, shooting flashbangs at protesters. Protesters scattering at that point, and then it really got chaotic at that point. So within the last hour, again, deputies starting to retreat, and then it calming down here. We do have some sound from some protesters who we spoke with earlier today, as well as the sheriff. Let's go ahead and roll that.
This is the United States of America. It's supposed to be for everybody. No one's better, no one's superior. We are the same. We bleed the same. We will die the same. We will all go under the earth the same.
All we're doing is trying to help our people from being separated from their families. That's all we're doing. That's all. Do you see anybody being violent? No.
As the crowd has grown, it has become more violent. Individuals in the crowd that have been throwing objects at the federal agents, and we started to call in additional resources from around the county of Los Angeles.
Still a very active situation here in Compton. If you live in this area, a good idea to avoid the intersection of Alondra and Atlantic. And no one is getting over the bridge over the 710 freeway. You can see in the distance here a lot of Mexican flags, a lot of American flags. People, again, upset with these ICE raids and coming here to Compton to show their frustrations. Guys?
Yeah, Zach, we can see a lot of the people that are still out there. We heard someone doing a donut, as you said. You mentioned that LASD deputies have retreated. Are there any currently at the location you are at?
Yeah, there's a couple dozen deputies down the street here. You can't see them from where we're standing, but they're just past the Dave's Donuts here on the corner. Still a couple dozen deputies holding strong with their riot shields. They have some green fencing laid out in front of them. Again, they're not letting anyone get over the overpass, which crosses over the 710 freeway. Can't see them from where we are now, but there are still some protesters clashing with those deputies, and we'll work to get a better shot for you guys coming up here at 8:30.
Zach Boetta, live in Compton. Thank you so much. It looks like those deputies are not going full force to the protesters. You can see someone doing donuts right here in the intersection. Normally this is something they would stop, but in this case, they're holding back.
And a lot more traffic flowing at this point compared to earlier.
Well, earlier, not far from Compton, this was a scene in Paramount where protesters clashed with law enforcement. Protesters trying to block vehicles and throwing objects at cars and officers, using pepper spray and firing rubber bullets. Take a listen. Very intense scene there just before officers used tear gas and rubber bullets. protesters tried to block a U.S. Marshal bus from driving through that crowd.
This also on Paramount, you see a U.S. Marshal Service bus head-to-head with a group of protesters, at one point trying to push the bus back before then making its way through, and law enforcement allowing it to cross paths there. And another moment we showed you earlier this afternoon, a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol vehicle also getting things thrown at it from protesters. At one point, looks like milk, rocks, other things being thrown at those vehicles as they pass by.
Over in Inglewood, this was the situation here. Citizens video shows someone being stuffed inside a Border Patrol vehicle there. A few people were outside of the car protesting the law enforcement. It's unclear if this was part of a larger raid or who the person was that was being taken in this video. We have reached out to federal officials, have not heard back. And tonight, a rally outside a detention center in downtown LA where protesters are gathering for anti-ICE rally on Alameda. This is happening right between Aliso and Temple. After yesterday's raids, they say they're standing against President Trump's immigration policies and fighting for dignity and equality. Now, joining the rally there, SEIU President David Huerta's nephew, who says his uncle is physically okay after being hurt during his arrest yesterday.
We're here in solidarity with him, in solidarity with the immigrant community. They're trying to criminalize people that are working class, people that are the backbone of this country. If they want to deal with bad people, fine. That's a whole different conversation. But they're targeting working families. They're separating children. Children are not the bad guys. Families and mothers are not the bad guys.
Huerta is the leader of one of the nation's largest labor union, remains in federal custody. He's accused of interfering with the LA immigration raids. Now, the U.S. attorney says Huerta was blocking an ICE detention van. The union says Huerta had to be taken to the hospital. He is expected in court on Monday.
Today's protests come after an hours-long demonstration in downtown LA yesterday. People crowded the federal building where detainees were taken following widespread immigration sweeps in LA. The protests got tense at times, with officers firing tear gas to clear the crowd. Where federal agents appeared to be staging. Protesters confronted those agents as several flashbang grenades went off. Several of the armored vehicles were also vandalized with graffiti.
And today, California lawmakers say they are being denied entry into the downtown LA detention center where detained migrants are being held. Congressman Jimmy Gomez and other elected leaders say they should be allowed to visit any facility that's detaining migrants, but we're told they weren't allowed in because of safety issues.
I've been to the Middle East. I've been to wars.
Information units on our 23-103 West 105 from Wilmington. It's a gray sports car in and out of all lanes of the Harvard Street. West 105 from Wilmington. 2 ago, no further, no follower. Teammate is with a split 50-20.
As members of Congress to provide, to have oversight.
Now, we reached out to Border Patrol for information about the facility, but have not heard back yet. And breaking news tonight, President Trump deploying the National Guard to deal with unrest over immigration enforcement here in Southern California.
And let's get live to KCAL News reporter Zach Boeto in Compton, where protesters have been facing off with law enforcement. Zach?
It's going en route to David Knight.
Yeah, hey guys, still an active scene here at Alondra and Atlantic. You can see behind me, people are starting to go through this intersection. Traffic is moving smoothly, but earlier today, a much different scene. We have video of a car fire that took place right at this intersection. Protesters and deputies clashing here in Compton, right next to Dave's Donuts. There were fireworks, there were pepper bombs, there were flashbangs going off earlier on today, and you can hear in the background, it sounds like there are still flashbangs going on just up Alondra here near the the 710 overpass. That's where protesters and deputies are now clashing. We've been kind of blocked into this gas station, this Arco gas station here, where a lot of the action was taking place earlier this afternoon. Now things have changed. There were people doing donuts in the intersection, a lot of damage and destruction happening, people tagging up walls in the area, businesses. They have since calmed down here, but deputies again and protesters now clashing up closer toward the overpass. We did hear from, I just did hear from a young man who said he was at the Home Depot at Paramount early this morning when ICE arrived. He said they blocked people off. They started to pepper spray and tear gas people. A young woman and her daughter got out of the car. They were tear gassed. Then he and his girlfriend got out of their car and began recording the situation, and he tells me that's when ICE detained his girlfriend. He says that she was born in the U.S., fully documented, but he says because he believes she was recording, they took her and detained her, and he has not heard from her in now what is 12 hours later. So we are here in Compton, and we are hearing from people who are having these firsthand experiences, and we're seeing what is taking place here at the intersection of Alondra and Atlantic. I don't see any other news crews here on scene right now. Helicopters overhead. Still a very active situation here. Protesters still clashing with police, and of course, they're here because of the actions that have taken place over the last 2 days.
Broadway, approximately 7 to 8 vehicles setting up for a takeover. 157 Broadway has a one ago, no further came
Anything that really stood out to you from what the sheriff said? And if you have to go, that's okay.
Yeah, well, the sheriff was mentioning that they did not want to be involved in the immigration raids. That was the biggest thing from the sheriff. The sheriff said they only deployed deputies because the Department of Homeland Security asked for backup because the protest became violent early this morning, making it clear that the Sheriff's Department did not want to be involved in the immigration raids. Again, reacting and responding to the Department of Homeland Security's request for backup once the protests turned violent. And we have seen the violence. We've seen protesters shooting fireworks, and these aren't safe and sane fireworks that they're shooting at these deputies. They're shooting M80s. They're shooting Roman candles, and the deputies were firing back. So we know that the president has also decided to send out 2,000 more individuals who are coming out to help the guardsmen, and so we'll see what happens now that it's getting dark. Again, traffic is back up and running. It seems like here at this intersection things have now turned more into like a sideshow or a takeover here and less of a confrontational moment, but we know, of course, the protests and the deputies are still going face to face on this 710 overpass.
Recoleto, thank you so much. Okay, joining us now is immigration attorney Alma Rosa Nieto. Thank you so much for being with us, Attorney Nieto.
My pleasure.
First and foremost, we have to ask, I'm sure you've been monitoring this situation since really it began here in Southern California, but what do you make of the ICE operations that we are seeing and President Trump's deployment of the National Guard?
Well, very frightening in and of itself, raids, but now with National Guard involved, I'm afraid that there may be violence or more violence and harm to immigrants and their families, as we've seen a girlfriend taking a video and then detained by ICE and a whereabouts unknown. The tactics are very frightening, very scary.
And on that note, have you heard of any other ICE detainments at any point today and about where the people who have been detained are being held? Though it sounded there, like you said, to parts unknown. So is it still unknown?
It is still unknown, and because there's little space, who knows where people will be detained and taken to. They could be detained in Los Angeles and then sent even out of state where there is room for detention.
Attorney, you know, we've heard from members of Congress here locally who say they are being denied visitation to these local detention centers. Have any attorneys been allowed in, and what are the current conditions that you are hearing?
Well, attorneys can, if there's a G-28, it's a form that both the client and the attorney sign, stating that they can represent and access a person that's detained by ICE. So, which is my recommendation, if you have an attorney and if you are undocumented, it's best to have that form signed in ink with your attorney so that your attorney can have access either in the courts to see the person or in a detention center. I'm not familiar with if they're denying attorneys or not access, but usually I've gone to many detention centers in my practice.
David 90, party related, they have AAA en route.
We're going to let you go on this here. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time. We're going to have to move down to downtown LA as things seem to be picking up down there. Yeah, let's get to let's check back in with Lauren there because she's, as I mentioned, just right there on the scene. And Lauren, we're taking a look at the camera here. It looks like a couple people and the crowd sort of inching closer and closer to that skirmish line. What are you seeing? Are you hearing anything at all?
Right. Yeah, that's right, Gio. Yeah, this crowd here. Now I see Leslie was mentioning, you guys were referencing. I was on the other side of the truck. I didn't see this small, relatively small compared to earlier group of I don't even know if we can call them protesters at this point because I don't know if they were here earlier, but they are facing off with police right now. You can see officers, they have that their gun that they're going to use to shoot that tear gas at them if they move closer. And we keep seeing people test their limits here. And the officers are not fooling around tonight. They will deploy that tear gas the closer you get. I also see officers, they've been showing their flashlights, checking us, seeing who we are, also seeing putting their flashlights in the crowd here, and they're telling people to get back. But if they keep inching closer, and it's just asking for trouble here. The officers are not fooling around tonight. They want everybody back behind this line. And then also, I should mention, which I didn't mention earlier, this road is now blocked off. And moments before that tear gas initially first went off, we had cars trying to get through here, and the protesters were redirecting traffic to turn around to go down the road again. And then all of a sudden, things took a really dramatic turn. But yes, that's what we're seeing here. We also see people holding up signs here disapproving of ICE and antagonizing the police, telling them, I've heard them say, get another job, get out of here, you don't belong here. Just things like that are being said to the officers as they're on the line here, trying to hold everybody back.
And Lauren, before we let you go, I sort of want to draw contrast again to what you were mentioning earlier when we first checked in with you, which was regarding the difference between what we're seeing now, what caused the agitation that then prompted tear gas being used versus what happened closer to, you've been there since 3 p.m. when you mentioned it was more peaceful protesting and a lot calmer. I mean, just sort of for anyone who might just be catching up, compare and contrast the difference between what you've been seeing throughout this entire evening.
Gio, it's night and day. Earlier today, now as I'm talking, you're going to hear police sirens come by here. I'm not sure. Let me take a look here. Okay, looked like CHP. They're just turning around there. Yes, complete night and day. Earlier, it was an organized demonstration. People were out here. They had their signs. They were protesting. They were not blocking traffic. They were at the street at some points, but nothing too crazy. But and this is, the line is moving, so we're going to move back as police move forward here because we don't want to get in their way. And, okay, we're going to wrap. Okay, we'll send it back to you.
Okay, Lauren, get to safety. Thank you so much. We are being joined now by U.S. Attorney Bill Essayli, if we can get to that at this moment. Hi, U.S. Attorney, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first of all, we know President Trump has deployed the National Guard, 2,000 guardsmen. Newsom is calling it a spectacle, inflammatory. What is your response to that?
Look, the behavior we saw yesterday and today is just completely unacceptable. We have federal law enforcement agents engaged in lawful activities. They're executing search warrants. They're executing deportation orders. They're out doing targeted enforcement. And you have these agitators who are highly organized, highly coordinated, and they're coming out and they're impeding our investigations. They're assaulting officers. They're throwing Molotov cocktails. They're throwing rocks. They're injuring our officers. It is out of control. And since the state of California, the governor can't control his state, then yes, the federal government is going to step in. The National Guard's on its way, and we will have peace and order in Los Angeles.
You mentioned earlier today that there were more federal law enforcement operations happening in LA County and that they would, quote, proceed as planned through the weekend. Is there a specific number of raids or enforcement operations that are going to be conducted that people can expect for the rest of the weekend into tomorrow night?
Yeah, so let me be clear. There's no raids. Yesterday, we executed several search warrants at workplaces that are in violation of federal laws. There was a warrant signed by a federal judge. They're violating labor law, and they had fraudulent records they're using for their employees, all kinds of stuff. So we had warrants to go there. The other activities that we're doing this weekend and what will continue is the targeted enforcement. We're out. We're looking for criminal illegal aliens who have arrest warrants and final deportation orders. People have deportation orders. We're arresting really bad people out there. We're child abusers and violent criminals. We're getting them out of the country, and that's what the American people voted for, and that's going to continue. That's not stopping.
I want to get back to the situation currently in downtown LA. The video is playing as we're speaking with you, and we're watching law enforcement. You know, in the area, 157 and Broadway, no visual of any. We're watching fireworks go off. What, if any, action has your office taken against some of these people that have impeded on these investigations?
Yeah, so we've made over 20 arrests today. If someone is impeding a federal officer, if they're assaulting a federal officer, if they're damaging federal property, they are subject to federal prosecution, and we are doing that. I think what you're seeing on the TV today, that falls more under the state jurisdiction, where you have an unlawful assembly, you're having riots, you're having disturbance of the peace. I know the sheriff's office was doing arrests today out in Paramount. And I suspect the LAPD will make appropriate arrests in downtown LA tonight.
And going off of that, I sort of want to draw attention once again to really separating who is responsible for who, or rather who's operating what exactly, because I think there's a lot of confusion among viewers and perhaps anybody else watching at home as to who is doing what. And I know the Sheriff's Department issued a statement earlier today that they would not cooperate with federal authorities. But if you can, I want you to draw some distinctions for us as to who's doing what throughout this weekend.
Sure. The federal government does have ongoing criminal and immigration enforcement operations. We have not asked the state or local officials to assist in that. We are doing that. The sheriffs and the local police are only getting involved when there's a public safety issue, when there's a danger to our agents or there's danger to members of the public in Los Angeles. There's a disturbance of the peace. They're getting involved from a public safety perspective. They are not involved in any of our immigration enforcement operations.
You know, U.S. Attorney, something that the governor has come out to say with the National Guard coming in is that the National Guard really helped us through the Eaton fire, the Palisades fire, and built a sense of trust. He mentioned that having them come for a situation like this would break that trust. What is your response to that?
I mean, they're there to restore order. Anyone who looks at the scene on your TV, look at that. It's out of control. What normal person, what member of the public feels comfortable being in downtown LA right now? Nobody. So I don't know what he's talking about. He needs to watch the TV and see what's going on. It's out of control. And since he can't control the state, he can't control the lawlessness, we'll do it for him. And that's what the president's doing. He's deploying the National Guard. We will have order in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, to continue on that topic then, because I want to bring in the fact that the mayor said something regarding that as well, and I'm going to use her words directly, where she says, quote, "These tactics sow terror in our communities and disrupt basic principles of safety in our city." And there is an argument about, you know, executing lawful search warrants and et cetera, but then when it escalates into something like this, there are naturally a lot of people that are afraid. I wonder if you see at all any potential argument for the fact that perhaps it's almost overblowing to a degree and getting to a degree where sort of everybody has lost the handle on the wheel, so to speak.
Well, we are in control of our operations. We have not canceled any of our operations. We have been successful in both our missions yesterday and today. So everything's going as planned on our front. What's out of control is the response by the agitators. And I will tell you, they appear to be highly coordinated and sophisticated. We saw union activists and organizers be involved in these efforts to resist our operations. So there's something going on here where you have this sophisticated resistance that's being mounted against the federal government, and we're looking into that. We're going to look at who the leaders of those operations are. But look, we didn't cause this. I mean, this reaction is not normal. We're enforcing the law as written. We're not doing anything crazy or draconian. We're going to a judge. We're getting search warrants. We're getting arrest warrants. We're going to immigration court. We're enforcing immigration law. If they don't like it, they should talk to Congress. Congress writes the laws. We enforce the law.
Before we let you go here, we are watching, some of these protesters throw fireworks right at the skirmish line in between these law enforcement officers. You can imagine how dangerous that situation is. But we're talking 2,000 National Guardsmen. Do we know when they will arrive here in LA and what that will look like?
I think you can expect them to arrive relatively quickly, within the next 24 hours. You're probably going to see their presence. And it is very dangerous, and we hope that all the LAPD officers remain safe out there. We don't want any officers to get hurt. We are imploring the public to not do this. Do not come out there. Do not agitate the officers. People, of course, have a First Amendment right to publicly and peacefully protest, but you don't have a right to throw objects or fireworks or rocks at police officers. That's not First Amendment. That's a crime. And a lot of these people who think they're getting away with it, we've got lots of video online and both surveillance videos. We have FBI teams working around the clock. We will identify you, we will find you, and we will come get you. So you are not safe. You can expect a visit at your door at some point.
U.S. Attorney Bill Essayli for the Central District of California. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time this evening.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I also want to bring into the conversation now our law enforcement expert to help us break down what we're seeing as this is getting a bit messier. I want to bring in now Scott Duffy. Scott, thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. We've been covering this extensively. We really appreciate you for hopping on. You're a former FBI agent. Austin and I have been watching these images, and as journalists, we're just trying to interpret what we're seeing, but there's a lot of thought process that also goes on behind the scenes as these authorities have to address what we're seeing there on the screen.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it seems like we're just seeing what was rhetoric early on, and I'm talking about going way back, is now turning into an escalation of a free-for-all, where the right to protest is an absolute right in our society, to gather peacefully and to make your majority voice, your minority voice, whatever is your issue known. What we are seeing here, and I think we started to see it especially in Newark a couple of weeks back, when you have elected officials or legislators, one who make policy, law, all of a sudden standing against law enforcement by blocking, whether it be using your body or some sort of passive-aggressive way. We are now seeing this across the nation where ICE, CBP, our law enforcement partners who are carrying out their duty to enforce the laws of the United States. And so when they are stopped, when you have a van full of what we believe are lawfully arrested individuals who are being detained to be brought through the process, a judicial process, and then to go through deportment proceedings. When you have a van full of arrested individuals, a car full of arrested individuals, and then for them to be stopped by protesters, by people who are interfering with law and order, you are putting them at risk, because the whole idea, once you've arrested somebody, is to immediately get out of the area that you made the arrest and transport them to a secure facility. that's obviously safe for the individual who's arrested and safe for the law enforcement officers who made that arrest. Now they're being held in traffic because obviously they're not going to be able to move forward with the crowds that we are seeing. And we're just seeing chaos. This is sheer chaos that's unfolding, which is a dangerous precedent. And I'm not sure where this is going.
Scott, can you see the California image on your screen? We've been watching less than lethal rounds being used as we've watched these scenes unfold today and late last night. What type of less than lethal rounds are often used during these types? And what purpose do they serve? Lots of people out there are already going to know the answer to this question, but I would love it in your words.
Yeah, so Austin, what you're seeing is not just protesters, right? So let's address, this is where they now believe this is stepped into, these individuals are breaking the law because they're interfering with an arrest. And so the less than lethal could be beanbags or some, and I may be mischaracterizing, but they are obvious, it's like going to, if you're, the paintballs, etc. These are projectiles that are aimed to hurt, they could break the skin, they could, but they are projectiles at a very low rate of speed coming out of the weapons that are designed to, hey, you didn't listen to my voice, and my voice is my first command. You've now no longer complying, and you have been told that you are now breaking the law. And so we can do one of two things. We can come and arrest you by putting you in handcuffs and removing you, but law enforcement is outnumbered here. So it would be more dangerous for them to go into the crowds and start trying to put zip ties, handcuffs, and remove those individuals who are not being compliant. So you're going to send out projectiles, you're going to send out tear gas, you're going to send out what is given to law enforcement as that next step of use of force. Because ultimately, each and every one of those individuals that have stepped over the line from protest to blockade and thereby can be arrested. And so you're seeing law enforcement do everything in their power to hold back, not escalating, but trying to de-escalate. And one of those measures would be the use of gas, the use of smoke, the use of these less than lethal projectiles that are aimed to hurt. They're when they strike the body, it is like, okay, I'm getting out of here. I don't want to suffer that again. And they're going to leave welts and so forth. So it is a sign that force is now being used, and hoping that the crowds that they are seeing that are not complying are going to start to disperse. They want them to leave. They want them to run. They want them to vacate that area.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for that explanation, Scott. I also want to put this up on the screen because we have been taking the camera view of Matthew Seedorf. He's a reporter there with Fox 11 in Los Angeles. He is on the ground, as you can see in the background of this video. He is at that Home Depot where this appears to have broken out there, these protests, saying that their vehicle took a hit there in Paramount with protesters continuing to square off with Border Patrol agents. He's trying to block out the language that was on the screen as well there. And this was spray paint on the side of their news car, saying that our vehicle took a hit. Protesters continue to square off with Border Patrol agents. The situation has been going on for about 5 hours now. Scott, if you don't mind me asking, how much longer do you perceive these to be going on? Austin and I have been talking a lot about how this is a Saturday. A lot of folks are not at work if you're working a general 9 to 5. This could provide for a lot more people to be out there on the ground participating in these protests. How much longer do you think that we may see these images still coming into our newsroom?
Yeah, Christina. So, I'm going to not use the word protest because I think this has exceeded that protest. Right. This is a violation of law where you have individuals that are blockading traffic. You have look at that whole highway. What is that? A 4, 5, 6-lane highway. Look how many resources have to be brought out of the communities where they're doing whatever type of patrols to now shut down vehicular traffic because they're doing their job to protect the very people that are creating this chaos. So law enforcement today has to withstand a lot more than we have in years past. Their whole job is moving towards de-escalation, to not use force, except at the point that you have to make a decision that this is no longer remaining calm, that they're not just being passive aggressive and standing arm locked and blocking roads and blocking gates to where law enforcement has to enter into a federal detention facility. You are at the point that, like you said, it's a Saturday. So if this continues to go on, as we will see media coverage and so forth, will it be an invite for additional people to be like, I want to be in the middle of that, and I want to participate in this chaos because I believe in my heart that all this is wrong, and we see this from many of our elected officials, and so thereby I want to do my part in blocking these arrests. And so the rhetoric has gotten out of control, and now law enforcement has to put an end to it swiftly. And when I say swiftly, 5, 6, 7 hours seems to be a long time, but you are seeing those deployments of less than lethal, whether it be smoke, whether it be these projectiles that are coming out. Because at the same time, as if they allow more and more people to come into this fray of chaos, it's only going to be worse for the law enforcement that's on the ground, because we're already, as you can see, that news van, that is an act of violence, that vandalism, that where people are doing things and committing criminal acts in the name of whatever it is that they are trying to get across as a message. It has gone from protest to breaking the law. So law enforcement is trying to continue those de-escalation practices, but they also have to shut it down before other people start coming, and then they are just going to be outnumbered to the point of what more and more chaos. So it is a very difficult situation for law enforcement to be a part of this and try to quell whatever acts of violence that could be coming out, in additional, whether it be through throwing whatever bottles, whatever projectiles at law enforcement, destroying cars, homes, businesses. Law enforcement will have to act to put an end to it, while at the same time threading that very small needle of trying to constantly de-escalate and get these people to move on.
Let's say that the de-escalation efforts, as they stand, don't work. What other tools do law enforcement agencies have at their disposal to get this crowd under control if they do need to escalate things further later on in the day, Scott?
Yeah, and we have seen this in the past, where they could be standing for hours, and often it seemed like probably days, where you're actually bringing in additional officers to relieve the other officers who are tired, and thereby their decision-making skills may not be keen. So I imagine there is in place a plan. And that plan may be at hour 6, at hour 7, we're going to put an end to this. And so you'll be calling in additional resources. That's a lot of law enforcement out there, but it's not a lot of law enforcement compared to what you see of individuals that are out there and creating havoc. You'll have many onlookers who are, hey, I'm not going to push the limit. I'll stay in where I can and film and whatever they're going to do. But ultimately, it must be a true show of proper force, proportionate force, where law enforcement will then begin to make, once they have the available resources, that not only manpower, but the equipment in order to move forward and clear, and hoping that people are going to be running and leave. This is your time to leave. And escape any type of arrest. But at that point, once law enforcement starts to make those advancements to clear whatever areas of public sidewalks and streets that need to be cleared, they're going to be doing it, and they're going to be doing it very effectively because they train and be making many arrests. In other words, there will be hands-on officers that are going to be able to zip tie, grab people, and they're going to go behind the line of law enforcement as they continue to advance and try to break up this crowd. Then you have officers on the perimeter that are going to ensure that people are not circling back behind them. So it is a very tall task, but law enforcement, especially in large cities such as New York and Los Angeles, that they will be able to effectively do that, and they have in the past. But you are exercising, that is, law enforcement is exercising tremendous caution, giving people as much as possible, and here we are in quite a few hours. But I might believe they don't want this to go into the dark, into the night, because then they lose that tactical advantage where things could be flying and things could be happening that they may not be able to see. So I think they're putting in a plan right now to say, at this hour, if people are not clearing, then we're going to make those advancements.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Scott, because we heard there from those officials. This is all happening in Southern California there on your screens. We have our ground shot there on the top left-hand side of the corner, our Skyfox shot from the aerial views capturing what we're able to see. Not so well on the ground, but truly the size of this gathering that's going on there in Southern California. I also want to put some stuff up on the screen as well. This is from the White House Deputy Chief of Staff saying an insurrection against the laws and sovereignty of the United States. This is what he's calling this gathering there in Southern California, this protest, saying that and again, we do know White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller to be an immigration. Some of that video footage of what has been happening as well. So we're trying to keep folks updated. What we're hearing from some of these representatives and other folks in our government, but right now also the Democrat there, representative from the 44th District in California, Nanette Barragan, saying that Trump and Stephen Miller are unleashing terror on Los Angeles and Latino communities around California and the rest of the country. This was never about criminals or public safety. This was always about the plan. They want us to spread fear and intimidate hardworking Latinos. We're trying to just continue to add context so that way when we're showing you these images here on Live Now, we're able to do that. But as we're taking a look at some of this stuff, how difficult is it at this point when we're starting to see some of the response that's going out on X? Does that continue to sort of inflame how folks are feeling when it's being talked about on the internet? People may be watching us even right now, seeing these live images. Does that invoke people to even join in on these protests that are happening?
I would say all the above, Christina. You have, I always hate seeing, regardless, when our elected officials or on behalf of elected officials, when they start going to social media, and you kind of see that escalation. I don't like to say any of that because it's not helping the boots on the ground, the law enforcement who are there, who are simply doing their job. And they are trying to allow those who are peacefully protesting where they are allowed to be, not obstructing, not committing crimes, but voicing whatever it is, their message. However, when we see on X or any other social media platform where you have this war of words, that brings people more to wanting to head to the streets and participate in creating havoc. And we have to step back and realize what exactly is going on here. So you have law enforcement doing their job, who are effectively enforcing the laws of the United States. And when those and if there is a debate, the debate happens in a courtroom, and elected officials can get together and try to figure out what it is that will calm the storm here, as opposed to raising the temperature that ultimately is going to hurt the people on the ground. And when I say the people, law enforcement, who is trying to open up the roadways, protect the businesses, and ensure the proper passage and transportation of detained and arrested individuals to a secure and safe facility. But at the same time, all the people who are out there, you have probably many good-hearted people, but they're getting incited, and they're getting their temperatures are going up, and their heart is racing, and you get into this group atmosphere. If somebody's running towards something, you'll have other people running, not knowing what they're running to, and that just creates a major safety concern. And law enforcement on the ground, their job is to protect people, and while at the same time trying to do everything to protect that line of defense. So the words on social media do not help. Allow law enforcement on the ground to do their job, to come up with a plan when, and it's going to happen. Make that decision of what hour that we have to move in. Now, protests, people are upset at this, and they're going to go out to the streets and protest. Gather peacefully, protest, because it is the right of the United States, and stay out of harm's way and do no harm. I mean, these are simple tasks, and as we can see, law enforcement is in a predicament here, where they have to ensure the safety of everybody that's there, and protect property from any type of vandalism and etc. So it's, and now if you continue to allow this and temperatures are high, then you're going to bring other people from another side, and you're just going to have this clash of very angry on a very hot day. I imagine it looks very hot there, and it's just a recipe for disaster. Law enforcement has to be able to dispel that.
So, Scott, I'm just going to reset here for anybody new joining us. What we're watching in progress is a protest against federal ICE raids that have been taking place in Southern California the past 24, 48 hours or so. U.S. immigration authorities extended activity in the L.A. area today in the wake of protests at a federal detention facility and a police response that included tear gas, flashbangs, and the arrest of a union leader. Today's round of protests that we're looking at right now in Paramount, California, Scott, Fox's Bill Melugin says that despite local claims, there were no ICE raids going on at the Home Depot that this all began at. This all began at a Home Depot parking lot in Paramount, California. Bill Melugin says that DHS has a nearby office in Paramount, and that they were using this parking lot as a staging area. Protesters then found it and began gathering around the staging area. Scott, what is a staging area for? What might those agents have been doing in the parking lot. They weren't, as Bill says, they were not actively carrying out a raid at the Home Depot. So why might they have been staging there and ultimately attracted a crowd?
That can see clearly.
That sheds a lot of light, Austin. And so Home Depots, or, you know, not to give anything to a Home Depot versus a Lowe's or any other large shopping center that has quite a big parking area. I've used quite a bit of Home Depots and other large parking areas as my staging area. So a staging area, is a place where law enforcement, and I believe here is federal, state, and local law enforcement task forces of sorts, are staging, doing that very thing to gather, where the leaders...
And now at 8, breaking news, President Trump ordering the National Guard to deploy to Southern California in response to unrest and violence against federal immigration enforcement.
Tonight, the White House says it's deploying 2,000 National Guard troops to L.A., saying, quote, the Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for criminal behavior and violence, especially when that violence is aimed at law enforcement officers trying to do their jobs.
And Governor Newsom responding, saying, quote, the federal government is taking over the California National Guard and deploying 2,000 soldiers in Los Angeles, not because there is a shortage of law enforcement, but because they want a spectacle. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Marines at Camp Pendleton are also on standby at this hour to respond if necessary.
Let's get live to KCAL News reporter Zach Boetto, who's been in Compton all day, where protesters have been facing off with law enforcement after setting a car on fire. Zach.
Hey guys, in the last hour, deputies have since moved up Alondra closer to the 710 freeway on-ramp. They're now staged there and holding off protesters. Here behind me at the intersection that we've been standing at almost all day, Alondra and Atlantic, is basically now turned into a takeover where people are running and riding bikes and dirt bikes through the intersection. There's been a lot of trucks doing donuts here. Over to our left here, you can see that the security camera has been pushed over on this telephone pole. A lot of graffiti all over the businesses here in the intersection of Alondra and Atlantic, including Dave's Donuts here, an iconic location here in Compton. But as it turns to night here, protesters at this intersection have started to settle down a little bit. And again, deputies have since moved toward the 710 freeway. Here we go with a car doing a donuts here in the intersection. That same intersection is the one you're looking at now, where the car caught fire. There was a white Kia that came into the intersection a few hours ago, caught fire, and that set off a lot of mayhem here in Compton. Fireworks from the protesters toward the deputies. Deputies then shooting pepper balls at protesters.
We'll advise caution to access from Sepulveda and fire is
Protesters scattering at that point, and then it really got chaotic at that point. So within the last hour, again, deputies starting to retreat, and then it calming down here. We do have some sound from some protesters who we spoke with earlier today, as well as the sheriff. Let's go ahead and roll that.
This is the United States of America. Everybody. No one's better. No one's superior. We are the same. We bleed the same. We will die the same. We will all go under the earth.
There was a black male adult, 65 years old, 5'11", blue sports jacket, blue jeans, black backpack with a sneaker, and a large bottle of pepper spray. He was on a blue and white bicycle.
It has become more violent. Individuals in the crowd that have been throwing at the federal agents, and we started to call in additional resources from around the county of Los Angeles. Streets en masse to protest against the
Still a very active situation here in Compton. If you live in this area, a good idea to avoid the intersection of Alondra and Atlantic. And no one is getting over the bridge over the 710 freeway. You can see in the distance here a lot of Mexican flags, a lot of American flags, people again upset with these ICE raids and coming here to Compton to show their frustrations, guys.
Yeah, Zach, we can see a lot of the people that are still out there. We've heard someone doing a donut, as you said. You mentioned that LASD deputies have retreated. Are there any...
Was on approximately 65 years of age, 5'11", blue jacket, blue jeans, on a blue and white bicycle.
Yeah, there's a couple dozen deputies down the street here. You can't see them from where we're
standing. For call.
Still a couple dozen deputies holding strong with their ride shields.
Copy that. David H. Ford, can you check on this 1125 Ford, on 710 at Florence? FSP was out with a black right the cops and FSP, the vehicles in the 4 points.
We'll work to get a better shot for you guys coming up here at 8:30.
Protesters eating pizza and donuts right here in the intersection. Normally this is something
and a lot more traffic flow, but people still remain on the streets. Again, as we
earlier, not far from Compton, this was a scene in Paramount where protesters clashed with law enforcement. Protesters trying to block vehicles and throwing objects at cars and officers using pepper spray and firing rubber bullets.
He has now officially sent notice to the federal government that he wants to regain control of his forces from the National Guard. In fact, there is a group, the Democratic government, 22 of the United States have now put out a statement.
Very intense scene there just before officers used tear gas and rubber bullets. Protesters tried to block the U.S.
California's National Guard is an alarming abuse of power. The commanders-in-chief of the National Guard and federal government actively their own borders without consulting or working with the state's governor is ineffective.
This also on Paramount, you'd see a U.S. Marshal Service bus head-to-head with a group of protesters at one point trying to push the bus back before then making its way through, and law enforcement allowing it to cross paths there.
The statement continues. It's important we respect the executive authority of our country's governors to manage their National Guards, and we stand with Governor Newsom.
Another moment we showed you earlier this afternoon, a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol vehicle also getting things thrown at it from protesters. At one point, looks like milk, rocks, other things being thrown at those vehicles as they pass by.
Over in Inglewood, this was the situation here. Citizens' video shows someone being stuffed inside a Border Patrol vehicle there. A few people were outside of the car protesting the law enforcement. It's unclear if this was part of the
77-400, cornered up at a pedestrian stop on 405 in Inglewood. Hispanic male adult, dark clothing, walking on the right shoulder.
Federal officials have not pulled back. And tonight, a rally outside a detention center in downtown LA where protesters are gathering for anti-ICE rally on Alameda. This is happening right between Aliso and Temple. After yesterday's raids, they say they're standing against President Trump's immigration policies and fighting for dignity and equality. Now, joining the rally there, SEIU President David Puerta's nephew, who says his uncle is physically okay after being hurt during his arrest yesterday.
We're here in solidarity with him, in solidarity with the immigrant community. They're trying to criminalize people that are working class, people that are the backbone of this country. If they want to deal with bad people, fine. That's a whole different conversation. But they're targeting working families. They're separating children. Children are not the bad guys. Families and mothers are not the bad guys.
Puerta is the leader of one of the nation's largest labor unions, remains in federal custody. He's accused of interfering with the LA immigration raids. Now, the U.S. attorney says Puerta was blocking an ICE detention van. The union says Puerta had to be taken to the hospital. He is expected in court on Monday.
Today's protests come after an hours-long demonstration in downtown LA yesterday. People crowded the federal building where detainees were taken following widespread immigration sweeps in LA. The protests got tense at times, with officers firing tear gas to clear the crowd.
We're still waiting a little more detail on what happened there, but
where federal agents appeared to be staging. Protesters confronted those agents as several flashbang grenades went off. Several of the armored vehicles were also vandalized with graffiti.
And today, California lawmakers say they are being denied entry into the downtown LA detention center where detained migrants are being held. Congressman Jimmy Gomez and other elected leaders say they should be allowed to visit any facility that's detaining migrants, but we're told they weren't allowed in because of safety issues.
So I've been to the Middle East, I've been to war zones, so I know what it's like to actually be in a situation that's a lot more dangerous than inside this building.
How many people are there? It is our job as members of Congress to provide, to have oversight.
20 CHP cars are
now, we reached out to Border Patrol for information about the facility, but have not
being lucky enough to turn around and go.
And breaking news tonight, President Trump deploying the National Guard to deal with unrest over immigration enforcement here in Southern California.
And let's get live to KCAL News reporter Zach Boletto in Compton, where protesters have been facing off with law enforcement. Zach?
Get onto the 110, either in the north or the southbound.
Yeah, hey guys, still an active scene here at Alondra and Atlantic. You can see behind me. People are starting to go through this intersection. Traffic is moving smoothly, but earlier today, a much different scene. We have video of a car fire that took place right at this intersection. Protesters and deputies clashing here in Compton, right next to Dave's Donuts. There were fireworks, there were pepper bombs, there were flashbangs going off earlier on today, and you can hear in the background, it sounds like there are still flashbangs going on just up Alondra here near the 710 overpass. That's where protesters and deputies are now clashing. We've been kind of blocked into this gas station, this Arco gas station here, where a lot of the action was taking place earlier this afternoon. Now things have changed. There were people doing donuts in the intersection, and a lot of damage and destruction happening. People tagging up walls in the area, businesses. They have since calmed down here, but deputies again and protesters now crashing up closer toward the overpass. We did hear from, I just did hear from a young man who said he was at the Home Depot at Paramount early this morning when ICE arrived. He said they blocked people off. They started to pepper spray and tear gas people. A young woman and her daughter got out of the car. They were tear gassed. Then he and his girlfriend got out of their car and began recording the situation. And he tells me that's when ICE detained his girlfriend. He says that she was born in the U.S., fully documented, but he says because he believes she was recording, they took her and detained her, and he has not heard from her. And now, what is 12 hours later? So we are here in Compton, and we are hearing from people who are having these first-hand experiences, and we're seeing what is taking place here at the intersection of Alondra and Atlantic. I don't see any other news crews here on scene right now. Helicopters overhead. Still a very active situation here. Protesters still clashing with police, and of course, they're here because of the ICE raids that have taken place over the last 2 days, guys.
Zach Boletto, West Compton. Zach, we heard from the sheriff earlier today as well. I know we had some sound from him earlier, but anything that really stood out to you from what the sheriff said? And if you have to go, that's
yeah, well, the sheriff was mentioning that they did not want to be involved in the immigration raids. That was the biggest thing from the sheriff. The sheriff said they only deployed deputies because the Department of Homeland Security asked for backup because the protest became violent early this morning. Making it clear that the sheriff's department did not want to be involved in the immigration raids. Again, reacting and responding to the Department of Homeland Security's request for backup once the protests turned violent. And we have seen the violence. We've seen protesters shooting fireworks, and these aren't safe and sane fireworks that they're shooting at these deputies. They're shooting M80s. They're shooting Roman candles, and the deputies were firing back. So we know that the president has also decided to send out 2,000 more individuals who are coming out to help. the guardsmen, and so we'll see what happens now that it's getting dark.
Other news, a 2025 DOGE-inspired initiative is causing a stir with the release of a viral Trump survivor coin, receiving strong negative reaction videos from liberals nationwide. Starting today, Trump supporters can claim this historic gold coin for free as long as they pay the shipping and handling. This coin immortalizes the historic moment on July 13th, where President Trump survived an assassination attempt, and liberals are not very happy, as can be seen by their very emotional reaction videos. Normally priced at $49.97, it's now available on this website at no cost for patriots who support President Trump. You can claim your free gold Trump survivor coin at the website below, as long as you cover the
Very frightening in and of itself.
Tap the link and claim your piece of modern American history now.
Rocks, bottles, projectiles that are very dangerous being hurled at the LAPD on this side of the skirmish line. Right now it's at stalemate. There's something I just want to show you. That police skirmish line you saw behind me started probably 400 yards back, almost at the 101. And I don't know if you can see, but the amount of debris and how far it goes back, all of what you're seeing was either thrown by protesters or fired by the LAPD. So really a significant interaction here. And obviously, as you saw from the hundreds of protesters that are still here, it's probably not going to end anytime soon, Jordan.
Yeah, we watched that line be pushed back down Alameda and saw a near constant volley of those non-lethals at protesters. We watched all afternoon those federalized National Guardsmen and women guarding the entrance to the federal building. Are they still there? Can you tell if they're still on scene from your vantage point?
I believe that they are. The last time when we got pushed back, they were here. I would be shocked if they left. So, you know, it was federal law enforcement plus California National Guard. I would say a pretty fair mix. One of the things that surprised me, Jory, that I hadn't seen in a while was right front and center on the second story near the shrubbery was a sniper. It looked like a federal law enforcement officer, but a sniper was right there. So far, I mean, at that point, it seemed like a very peaceful demonstration. Law enforcement had deployed some sort of less than lethal, perhaps some pepper spray, and certainly some flashbangs. But what happened here was a step above. That was different. We saw some really significant physical interactions between the LAPD and these protesters. The size of the rocks and projectiles, let me see if I can try to find another one for you, that were thrown were significant. This is a piece of concrete or road that was picked up and shot. You can see some of the sharp edge stones over here. Much larger ones than that that were held by police. So this is something that I haven't seen quite some time in downtown LA. It's very intense, much more calm at the moment. But what's unclear right now, Jory, is how this thing ends.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Thanks. You've covered a lot of these. You know them pretty well when you say that it's something that you haven't seen before. That is certainly saying something. And we have said that these officers and these vehicles have been under assault. That is not overstating the case. Matt Gutman from ABC we appreciate his reports, and we'll continue to check in with what he is seeing down there on the ground as much as we can. Again, we say these officers are under assault, under attack. That is accurate. Every time we see a vehicle move in, reinforcements be moved in, they are assaulted. They have projectiles thrown at them. We saw the back window of a Chevy Suburban shattered on live television as they were moving in to that scene. Back to the 101 freeway, just a short distance from where Matt is doing that reporting. We see that crowd continue to maintain their position on the southbound 101 freeway.
Si está aquí solo, sola, si se quiere retirar, por favor, no se vayan solos, no se vayan solos.
Now on the northbound side, which I think has now been shut down. Let's go to Gabe Santos in Air 7. We see no vehicular traffic on the northbound. It looks like those
they're shooting something.
CP might be
they're
moving
shooting
right now on the southbound
shooting
side
pepper
as well.
spray.
Pepper bomb.
Here
they come.
Things happen here. You have CHP move in on the other side. You have flashbang grenades going off.
Flashbang.
Possible other less than lethal fire going off right now. Looks like tear gas canisters as well. But as far as the freeway is concerned, I'm not sure what happened first. If there were individuals that made their way onto the northbound lanes of the 101, or if CHP actually blocked traffic on the 101 first. Because I see a little further back, we don't have to zoom in on it right now, but a little further back on the 101s, if we go a little south from here, there's a CHP unit that's actually blocking traffic right near an exit. So it's directing traffic to get off the freeway a little bit further back. And then, okay, yeah, so Robert Photographer swung his camera.
The driver of the Mercedes came back. He's waiting for private assistance or
sides of the freeway.
awful. He advises on the off-ramp.
In SWAT here on both sides of the freeway. And you had for a time some protesters climb the barrier there and get on those roads. But then it looks like they've now cleared and kept the one-side traffic. So I'm not sure if that was an intentional decision on CHP to shut down both lanes of traffic.
So I would have to turn back around and confirm with you on the track 1020 of the pothole. But for now, the party advises on the off-ramp.
Move forward on these protesters and get them to get off the freeway. They don't want the danger of anybody jumping onto the other side and getting hit by a car. So that may be the tactic that CHP is using in terms of blocking both sides of the freeway now to get their officers on both sides of the freeway and maybe make a move here to clear the traffic.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want your officers at risk of vehicular traffic when you make your move. If we still have Bruce Thomas on the line, I do want to ask him, we see this group of CHP officers gathered beneath the overpass. I obviously think it's, I think I know why, but if Bruce could just talk about whether that's they are under there gathering to protect themselves from the crowd that is watching from above and the side so they don't get hit by anything from above.
Yeah, you're 100% right. They're seeking shelter underneath the freeway until they decide they want to move forward.
That's what I have.
Concerns
is
we have people on the overpass. We've seen them throwing onto cat law enforcement. So they do want to protect themselves because all they have to protect
that's the numbers I have. David, 98147025.
So I'm sure there are some people on an overwatch situation.
Yeah. So here we have two groups, and you think about as we see this confrontation set to take place, the backgrounds of both of these groups. You have demonstrators who feel like law enforcement has invaded their community and taken away members of their community, sometimes members of their family. And on the other side, you have law enforcement who likely got into this profession to help people, keep them safe, and suddenly find themselves at odds and doing their job with the people they are tasked with protecting. It's a tough situation. You understand the motivations from both sides, but again, you hope we're not pitting citizens of our city against each other, but here we are. The LAPD, CHP, local law enforcement is tasked with maintaining peace and order, and here once again on the streets of Los Angeles and the freeways moving through Los Angeles, we have disorder and unrest as demonstrations have now stretched into day 3 in Los Angeles. All of it against the movements of ICE and DHS and the Trump administration against the immigrant community here in Los Angeles and Southern California. We saw unrest in San Diego this weekend. We saw unrest in Washington, D.C., in New York City. This is happening across the country as President Trump is trying to fulfill his promise to go after those in this country illegally. Some in his administration say they are going after the dangerous elements, those who have committed crimes, those who pose a threat, who are violent, who are members of gangs. I think it's safe to say everyone in society wants to see those people gone, not on the streets in any, whether they're immigrants or not. We don't want violent gang members. Nobody does. The criticisms that have come is that people who are not violent have been swept up in this. There are people who are residents, legal residents of the United States who have been swept up in this. There are citizens of the United States who have been swept up in this. Some of them sent out of the country to supermax prisons overseas and struggling to get back. And so there is this push-pull. There are people in the administration, Stephen Miller, chief among them, who have said they want to see every single person in this country without permission to be taken out, and they do so with violent war-like tactics, moving in with weapons of war against people we saw in the garment district this weekend in Los Angeles, from day laborers at Home Depot. And so there are, you know, it's never as clear-cut as just simply people are committing crimes and we take them out of this country. It's the methods, it's who you're targeting. And that is where a lot of this ire has been drawn by some of these demonstrators. But again, even in California and Los Angeles, elected officials are saying we condone violence. We heard that from Mayor Bass. We hear that now from Governor Newsom. We hear that from members of Congress and elected officials and law enforcement. Nobody is condoning the violence or the assaults on officials, be it local or federal.
Turning around to click on that pothole, so please not request
3 days. Again, day 3 of unrest in Los Angeles. ICE, through a spokesperson, has put out a statement today. I'm going to read it to you here. It is long, but I'll read you the initial statement. It says, quote, irresponsible politicians continue to push dangerous and misleading rhetoric that puts communities and law enforcement at risk. Even the LAPD referred to violent riots yesterday as, quote, peaceful protests. It continues. Americans can look at the videos and images and see with their own eyes that they are dangerous, not peaceful. It continues. ICE and its federal partners are doing their job, enforcing immigration law and removing criminal aliens from Los Angeles communities. We have arrested a domestic abuser who assaulted someone with a firearm and a child rapist. In defense of these heinous criminals, masked rioters have made it their mission to injure and maim federal law enforcement officials. Make no mistake, rioters committing crimes will be arrested and held accountable. Let's go back to the situation.
They took his scooter.
It looks like the scooter that one person had been using to ride up and down, kind of taunting that line of CHP officers in tactical gear, has now been taken into custody. The scooter was just dragged out of the way, and that person is now face down on the pavement being placed into handcuffs. The rest of the crowd, this is on the northbound side. This is where this group of officers is lining up and moving their way down. And you can see some folks on the other side, the demonstrators, lining up in front of the Jersey barrier, confronting them as well. There's a large crowd behind them, and vehicular traffic does appear to be moving on. No, that is the side street. My apologies. That is up above. I believe Aliso.
They still got it closed down.
Freeway. But here we go. So officers
Flashes
from the
right now
are now
on the
moving in.
101.
There is now officially a skirmish line on the southbound
On the
101 freeway,
101.
and they want to get these demonstrators off the freeway surface. It appears as if they don't have to exert much pressure on these demonstrators as they are backing up. Unhappily, it seems, we see one gentleman there in black who is shouting at them, or a woman demonstrator in black who is shouting at them, going back and forth, very agitated, very angry. They are going to be backed up and turned around to go back up to get them off the surface of the Dave Santos is doing
Buenos no weapons, the safe party is inside. And have people with pets in our interactive learning games.
View of this situation, you can really kind of see what CHP is trying to do.
The more meth they learn,
attempt of shutting
the more pets they earn. Monsters challenge your child's pre-K to 8th grade adjusting
copy of police stop
with no experience at the 710. And don't worry, if your child makes a mistake, a real teacher explains each problem they miss so they can learn all by themselves. Track your child's progress with a daily report of their effort. Get started for free.
To make a circle, or at least a semicircle, around some of these protesters so that they are not just pushing them back.
Keeping in at 594, touring party westbound Washington towards the 605.
Pushing them further up, down the freeway.
Try to box
trying to get these people off of the freeway. And you even saw somebody on a scooter that was possibly taunting officers that eventually maybe got a little too close to an officer or maybe came close to striking an officer with that scooter. They were immediately taken into custody. So CHP not taking any chances with anybody, and they are slowly and methodically pushing these protesters. The idea is off the freeway as more resources get to the scene here. We're going to see that start to develop, as you see right there. Groups, about 10 or so CHP officers in full right here, moving down. Those are going to be the northbound lanes of the 101 freeway, and they're making this line around the group of protesters that we see there. And then slowly and methodically, you see this line of officers on the northbound side. Excuse me, those are the southbound lanes, but those protesters are facing north. You see those officers there, very slowly and methodically pushing that line of protesters, hopefully off the freeway and off the surface streets.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. Let's bring back in Bruce Thomas, our law enforcement expert. It seems like they are just taking one step at a time, Bruce, slowly pushing back on this group of
LA 120, tempo on the line.
They don't want to start anything, get too violent, go too fast. They are slowly, methodically making their way to clear the surface. We saw yet another flashbang go off above this crowd. But talk to me about what the mindset is of these CHP officers as they are now face-to-face with these demonstrators. They want to get them off the surface, but they don't want to start any violent confrontation.
You're 100% correct, Tori. What they're doing is they're negotiating. Look, you made your point. We've got to open this freeway up. We're going to use the skirmish line to slowly, very slowly, push you back off the freeway. You don't want to use force. You don't want to take anybody down. We're not you going to comply with our request.
Yeah, and it does seem to be effective right now. We have not seen the necessity for
control, CHP 98.
Let's push it back. It looks like some folks are just kind of dead weighting their bodies up against this crowd, forcing the officers to push them back. But they are moving back. They are locked arms now, arm in arm, and don't want to be removed, but they are slowly pushing back. So the officers will take a couple steps, gain that line, reset, move forward again, hopefully they don't want to start any major confrontation here again. All of this is playing out on the street.
Central S7 to the unit.
This Bass is set to address her city any moment now. We were told around 4:30.
What's she gonna do, call for peace?
To speak. We have not heard from her as of yet. We are winning words from the mayor. Again, direct confrontation with the federal government. President Trump name-checked her personally last night on his Truth Social outlet, his social media outlet, writing, this is last night, if Governor Gavin Newsom, that's a favorite of the president to write it that way, of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem. Riots and looters, the way it should be solved. So he's saying the problem was riots and looters. Said they will be solved the way it should be solved. He was also reported on camera being asked about a couple things with what's playing out here. Rules of engagement for the National Guard members who are now federalized under his control on the streets of Los Angeles. What their rules of engagement, they're carrying around, these soldiers can be inserted into war, so they're carrying the weaponry as such against citizens of Los Angeles. What the rules would be for them to employ those deadly means. The president just said we want to keep peace. He was asked about the proclamation that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth put onto social media, saying if the violence continued, then members of the U.S. Marines would be deployed against U.S. citizens. Under use of the insurrection.
What if your website's success was only limited by one single thing? Privacy regulations.
Look at this.
And
kicking it back in. Look at this.
Details matter. Imagine if the Egyptians had run out of limestone.
This is crazy.
Finishing the pyramid. What if now? Had forgotten the password just before putting the first man on the moon.
Oh, arrest him! They arrested him! They took him down!
You've poured your heart and soul into your business. Don't fail the last step.
This is crazy anarchy.
Offering easy implementation, customizable cookie banners, and automation. All designed to boost consent rates and build trust. Through the power of privacy-led marketing, that way, you can focus on what really matters. Growing your business. Start for free at cookiebot.com.
Who's throwing it back at the police?
This is of a dangerous situation because you basically have these protesters now, at least with that tear gas.
Protesters! Fire!
That skirmish line, as you can see, that person being taken out earlier, kind of wrangling with those CHP officers there just out of frame. CHP with that tear gas, obviously, it's not something you want to breathe in. It causes your eyes to burn. Those CHP officers wearing gas if you don't have a gas mask and you just have any other kind of mask, you're going to be getting the full effect of that tear gas can. That's what's creating a little bit of that buffer. You can see that CHP officer in the middle. He's trying to, as Bruce was saying, he's trying to negotiate with some of those protesters in a very, kind of matter-of-fact way. They get that back, put some distance here, and continue moving onto the freeway. You can see this one individual waving an American flag, continuing to yell at some of the officers. I have a feeling if he gets too close, some of those CHP officers might pick him off the road, and that's going to be the process. You saw that skirmish line that was
you'll be around the southbound 710 then.
Pickup, plate 9690, X-ray 3. Give me units code, Chicago.
Is there unit 1 start responding? Copy 4187. Was there a second unit? Copy 45.1. Was there a second unit to start responding? Leland is liquid. Copy 47. Responding. Copy the 211 suspect 417 involved. You're updated to 2048.
We're still going to be traveling southbound on Lincoln from there, going approximately 20 miles per hour. Traffic is light.
Copy southbound Leland and Mayor. Still going code 9. Traffic is light.
Vehicle is stopping outlet 2 on Mayor.
Copy vehicle is stopping lefty well in Mayor.
3 Boulevard at North Paddock. Available where dark clothing is light by stop sign after 8505.
You need a gunpoint?
Gunpoint is occupied approximately times 2.
Copy occupied times 2 against the TD at gunpoint. What direction are you facing left well in Mayor?
We're facing southbound.
That's where facing southbound. Area reaching.
About 6 minutes.
Copy arrow.
Mayor. 45 Thomas Code 6.
Copy 45 Chalmon Code 6. Arrow, that's going to be affirmative. And that plate 96890 X-ray 3 is coming back to that 2023 GMC. Looks like it's clear and current with an RL address in Lancaster.
Gale, or towards Gale, benefit.
Go hard on your step.
40, I'm sorry, confirm that the vehicle kept going, or did a CP flex the vehicle? I copied the park address 122, please on that.
We're not going to be going on northbound car radio from Network. Carmelita, we're going to be approaching the streets are approximately 40. Traffic is small, moderate.
10 Caesar 48, traffic is moderate at northbound Carmelita and Westmont.
5 minutes to description of the vehicle.
Arrow and 5. Arrow is going to be a 2023 GMC white color.
Alright, this is northbound Carmelita, we're going to be approaching Lakeland, you're just going northbound.
We're going northbound Carmelita and Lakeland.
So walk on the vehicle.
It's a 211 suspect and they had a 415 involved. What's the speed of traffic?
It's approximately 40, we're going to be going northbound on Carmelita, we live at 4.
Copy northbound on Carmelita. Confirm the crossing is void.
Going northbound into the Bronx, actually going to be going northbound, continuing northbound on Carmelita. We're going to be approaching Telegraph.
Copy northbound on Carmelita, approaching Telegraph. 10 bar eastbound on Telegraph. Now, give me your FPVD team.
And I'm going 87.
Copy going 87 now. I'm sitting. Copy eastbound Telegraph at Carmelita. What's the speed of traffic?
It's a busy day.
Telegraph. Eagles going to be going towards Mills now. Yeah, from Mills.
Copy eastbound Telegraph at Mills, 40 miles per hour. What's the traffic?
Copy is black, copy is black.
For traffic is black.
Or when you got here. But the most important thing right now is that our city be peaceful. And so protests and expressing your, fears, your beliefs is appropriate to do, but it is just not appropriate for there to be violence. And I don't want people to fall into the chaos that I believe is being created by the administration, completely unnecessary. Thank you very much.
All right, that is the mayor
wrapping up a news conference about the ongoing federal immigration enforcement as well as the subsequent protests, calling on the president to rescind the order that federalized the California National.
Information units on a 23 Winners B, flashing westbound 91 from the 710. It's a white Ford Mustang, unknown space, moving in and out of lanes, driving at high speed. Westbound 91 from the 710 as one to go, no further. K-8 from the split 72.
LA, clear 2, I copy your broadcast. To play a request on the log.
I copy your request, I'll start working on.
Pretty much saying, well, you can protest, but we don't support the violence. And then also saying we don't support the National Guard coming in and what the Trump administration is doing. So here we are back outside, right by this federal Metropolitan Detention Center. I've been watching these other feeds too, so we'll change if it gets really crazy somewhere else. But this is a good view and perspective of this entire situation, and we got about less than 3 hours now till it gets dark. Less than 3 hours until it gets dark. What's going to happen here? A lot of people out there, thousands are still out there in the streets. Thousands are still out in the streets.
Charles Willard, and Wilmington Ray is a 511 awaiting additional unit.
The question is, does the military come in tonight? Thank you, Awakened One. Thank you. Michelle, welcome to JLR Investigates. Reading some of your comments. A lot of comments coming through. Justice Mama, thank you. Cal Coke Ranch, thank you. JRG Projects, thank you. Brian, thank you. Cynthia, thank you. Brian Clapcroft, thank you. MDM 18, thank you.
Si se quiere retirar, por favor, no se vayan solos. No se vayan solos, porque ahí es más peligroso.
Vic the Red, thank you. Is that Bubby? B-U-B-Y. Garcia, thank you. Velvet, thank you. Cynthia Sunquist, thank you for being a member for 4 months. Robin, thank you.
Maybe in the rights of
oh, we got violence.
Have these automated vehicles that are kind of easy to corner and easy to stop.
And
protesters appear to be taking advantage of that and using these automated vehicles as maybe billboards for their message, and unknown what
major vandalism.
Waymo's response to this is going to be. Do they just kind of shut down?
Oh, and a car on fire.
They're probably gonna.
Folks, it's getting bad out here.
These are owned by a company. They're not owned by a specific individual. So at least it's not a sole individual that is now at a loss for a vehicle. You have these corporate vehicles that are probably insurance, and that's at least one big good news. But that's obviously not anything we like to see. We don't want to see people burning the streets. We don't want to see all these acts of vandalism that we're seeing now taking place on the Chinatown side of the 113. And we're seeing protesters move northbound on Los Angeles Street.
They're destruction. They're doing vandalism. Look at this. Fire! Fire!
Where those mounted officers from
fire!
That's what's spurring some of these protesters to continue northbound on Los Angeles Street, or if they're just kind of moving forward.
Oh man! Look at this. Unlawful assembly, riot, fire.
This must have happened in the last 20 minutes. I had eyes on this section of the street before Mayor Bass started talking, and this was not here. We were seeing a vehicle, I think that truck is there a little further, if Rob Hanks on the left, there was a truck with some people on the back of the truck possibly speaking, making announcements, and I thought that was maybe one reason why people were continuing northbound on Los Angeles Street. But now we see these Waymos that may have just got, these automated vehicles maybe don't know that there's a protest. They don't have that programmed into their software to be aware of that, so they probably just drove into it. People, they know that if you stand in front of it, they just stop, and people are obviously taking advantage of that right now. You can see one person leaning on the hood, taking a selfie with that Waymo that's on fire. A lot of protesters being painted on these Waymos right now on Sunday night.
In some parts of downtown, and you do not want to see
Sunday night.
fires,
arson. Right when the mayor was speaking.
Toxins into the air, but an electric car in particular, once it hits that battery, you're talking about a very difficult job for firefighters. This is going to continue to burn those lithium-ion batteries, and the size of them and the amount of power they have in them. Once they catch fire, this is going to be a bad situation. You hope it's not an explosion and people aren't too close, but I know if I were near a burning electric car, I would get away as quickly as I can as the destruction continues here. We're hoping to talk, and here we go, someone else starting a fire in one of these vehicles. Ran out of fuel, thankfully, before that one. And now hiding their identity. But again, this is something, it's a volatile situation. I don't know if police are able to move in to this scene and try and calm things down, get these folks out. The fire department at some point is going to have to be called in to put this car out, and now a major conflagration in this car. We saw in Compton yesterday, when that car was lit on fire in the middle of the intersection, the firefighters had to come in and had to be protected by police. You know, you have a line of officers be able to move in. And
they're trying to set another one on fire.
And even those firefighters had projectiles thrown at them. So again, this car is now fully engulfed.
Total anarchy.
Other Waymo's on fire, and as this is playing out again, we want to try to get to Tim Caputo. We just heard from Mayor Karen.
Total anarchy.
I just heard from
in downtown Los Angeles.
Not a lot of time after they out. Okay,
total anarchy.
Shortly, and as we wait again, and we're hoping to talk to Tim Caputo, who just questioned the mayor of Los Angeles directly, with some very pointed and very impressive line of questioning, because it sounds at times that the mayor is trying to have it both ways. She blamed all the chaos that has played out in Los Angeles this weekend on the Trump administration actions, and at the same time, on the other hand, said that violence is not acceptable, and so admitting that there is a lot of violence playing out in these protests, and so that is clearly the violence are not Trump administration officials, so they are to blame as well. So, you know, it sounds like she's having it both ways. Let's zoom in back on that car, because we started to see some explosions in relation from that. We see the
Mother pulling on son, now it's 35, strong garage, off 390. I guess reason.
This is the only car that is set ablaze, and you still see some flames there on the roadway as that fuel, whatever fuel source is now burning, has now made its way onto the street itself.
Central 5 someone to handle 5 the SS 712 Barbie and Rosemead. That's Barbie and Rosemead. Driver on black Harley Davidson, swerving in and out of traffic, almost seen vehicles. DP is wearing all blue with black helmet going eastbound on Barbie. Vegas 116, St. LaCroix does be 22, prior to 22, Harley Davidson 28. Henry or Patricia Diaz Arroyo, 10767 Avonbury Avenue in the city of Whittier, Van Round.
But Mayor Bass is encouraging people to peacefully protest. Look at this.
Temporary attempted to relocate the vehicle last seen Whittier in Arizona.
Waymos that now service Los Angeles have been attacked, vandalized, and destroyed. This one on the right of this window is now fully engulfed in flames. And it just continues a day of unrest in Los Angeles that is in response to moves by the Department of Homeland Security and ICE under the Trump administration as they continue to take those in this country illegally out of the United States.
Absolutely, and we were talking about the National Guard a little bit earlier. They're deployed. 2,000 troops are here, and pretty much President Donald Trump basically bypassed Governor Newsom's authority, and he deployed the troops here. And that makes me think that's...
Vamos a movernos hacia el otro lado del edificio, donde tienen a más de 200 personas secuestradas. Mujeres, hombres, hacia el otro lado del edificio, donde tienen a más de 200 personas secuestradas. Mujeres, hombres y niños, sin baños, sin comida, sin agua. Ahí los tienen ya por más de 2 días. Tenemos que ir todos a este lado para que el pueblo sepa que no están solos. Estamos con ellos y vamos a seguir luchando y organizando para liberarnos. Estamos juntos, estamos unidos. Con esto vamos a, de una manera organizada y disciplinada, vamos a irnos a este lado, doblar a la izquierda, y vamos a estar ahí. Vamos a ir detrás de las pancartas de banners. Please follow the banners. So we're going to move that way right now.
Responding to a video
Update on that call.
We are in a full-blown riot.
Line disconnected. No answer on call back. Sampling that the 2502 Garvey and Rosemead. DP appears to be nodding on.
Go ahead. 45 10 out, one of the units that's at the closure right now, westbound at the 710. If they can, one of them can break off, get more cones and meet me at southbound 710 to the westbound lanes of the express lane.
One of the units from westbound standing to 710, can you respond to S4 to southbound correction to retrieve more cones and then respond to southbound 710 to westbound 10 express?
So in a few moments, we're all going to move this and know that they are not alone. Vamos a seguir, vamos a movernos hacia el otro lado del edificio donde tienen a más de 200 personas secuestradas, mujeres, hombres y niños, sin baños.
Confirming the character after the second one, so I have one Nora one Nora 4 out of Lincoln, 2-1 confirm Edward.
Estamos con ellos y vamos a seguir luchando y organizando para liberarlos. Estamos juntos, estamos unidos.
Connect 22, hit the informant, you can still below. Brown shirt, gray pants. Inside the bedroom, this is the location, check 171.
Manera organizada y disciplinada, vamos a irnos a este lado, doblar a la izquierda.
Frank, Adam Frank, 812. RC Dave 2623, sending message all records to USC Leanne. Steven 49720, southbound Long Avenue,
Typically, how the federalization of national guard troops happens, we see it
Bellflower Boulevard, driver. Black SUV, possibly mobile yelling at the passenger. Unknown surf, busing or South Bellflower.
But it happens at the request of the governor, not in opposition.
Right, and it makes you think this is so hard to predict what can happen next because this is just, it's not going in the right order. So, I mean, just like you said, so it's really hard to think what are the next steps because things happen out of order. And looking back at Waymo, we see now an even larger crowd gathered around.
They're trying to set the other one on fire. Look. This is anarchy. This is chaos. This is rioting. Look, they're still smashing the windows.
You see that guy on the roof with a skateboard trying to just basically break anything off this car that they are able to do. And I don't know if we can pull out and see if any officers are in this area, but again, the situation is when we have seen quite a bit of it this weekend play out in Los Angeles.
Oh, we got breaking news. The Department of Defense just deployed 500 active Marines.
The crowd making their way through Los Angeles. Again, we just heard from LA Mayor, there's the explosion. Waiting for to see if it happened. The car has now exploded as it likely is reaching typically they're found beneath.
43Q1, you'll be handle 43 David Bonilla, assistant of 415 by 914S, 11660 Firestone, again 11660 Firestone North at the Northeast Market. Again, Hanson, the employee saying security was fighting with people outside and someone was pepper sprayed. It's check 113.
Basically just dragged it off of the bridge. But here we have some knuckleheads knuckleheads trying to continue to damage this car, do whatever they can to get involved in this basically a mob party as they watch this car burn.
Yeah, and again, these EV fires, they're absolutely no joke. Those fumes that are in the air. Again, these protesters, they're so close to that fire. They're breathing in all of the toxic gases. Again, we talked about carbon monoxide, hydrogen chloride. Those are imposing. Breathing in. They're feet away from the car that exploded.
As for the central sergeant just called and advised we can open up the express lanes now.
82 Esquire, copy all. Make sure the units copy and can be in position for a break if they need it.
Copy that. 620. You can
see different flags within that crowd, and they continue to move. I believe this is Temple Street.
Yeah, it's Temple.
I think this is
right by the
convention center, just across the 101.
Templar. 7 to copy.
California Highway Patrol came in to clear the
Look at that.
freeway.
Total anarchy.
226 on that copy. Coming around to 7-2 for a break.
So they were able to
Cars, plural.
car. And we're going to see this play out here on both ends of this string of 5 Waymo cars. Still burning.
And this is the group in
for that break for 7.
82618, eastbound 10, Soto off.
From eastbound 10, Soto.
This is still a very large crowd. There is an improvement in the last
45T1, go ahead to California, please.
It's getting worse. Get more violent. It's not a protest. It's a riot. It's a riot.
Victor Henry, it's 835 info only. Please do not clear. If he wants, it's going to be current 1124 of 25.
Can we pan around and see if there's still a group
our address is on Santa Fe. Correction, it's on Clarkman Street in Santa Fe. 45T1.
West or south side. Okay, we do have this is Temple and Alameda. So this
Move that way right now.
Are they sitting down? I'm not sure. They are all sitting down. This is Temple and Alameda. They are here for the long haul, it looks like. Not really doing anything to provoke anything from these LAPD officers.
They're waiting for it to get dark. They're waiting for it to get dark.
And Alameda. Oh, this is on the backside. Gotcha. Okay, so this is the top of it.
So we're going to show different angles here, what's going on. Marines have been activated. 500 Marines have been activated. It could be deployed within the next 24 hours. Fire is going on. Vandalism.
Unfortunately, good units, whether you're requesting a sergeant to respond, was there a sergeant to respond? MS97, whether you're on copy?
Oh, here they come. Here they come. What's going on here? 500 Marines have been activated. Got all types of crazy things going on down there.
Lakewood units, official, is effective. I think that's all over the 26 right now. Information, Tina Talk, 23103, possible 23109 activity, west on 91 from Alameda. Approximately 10 vehicles weaving in and out of lanes and erratic. West on 91 from Alameda, the one to go, no further, no following. Teammate is 1730.
LA, clear 2, I copy.
Clear 2, copy, thank you. 3600 Super Travelers, again 3600 Super Travelers in East Philly.
Sailing to 30's transient range, run clothing on the sidewalk, right block, the passenger vehicles, and moment to passerby, check 172. Was there any still units to take the assist? There's one units. Was there a unit to take the assist? Copy 2-4 boy can take the assist. Information units on the 23103, south 110 from the 91 for a black Honda sedan, unknown plate, several near-miss TCs. Southbound 110 from the 91, no further. K-mate is going to start 1732. And information units on 23103 in the area of Wilmington or Artesia. Black Ford F-150 and a red Ford Mustang driving reckless in the area of Wilmington and Artesia. No further. K-mate is going to start 1730.
Place 97, clear to copy all.
10-4. Thank you. 5199.
82S4, 98, roadway's clear. All lanes open.
82S4, 10-4, copy, all lanes open. Thank you.
There's that vehicle that was set on fire.
2701, code 62725.
They're still vandalizing vehicles.
Family 189 Boulevard, 18 mother calling on son with static 35. Was drunk, currently in the garage crying, possibly 92630.
500 Marines have been activated. U.S. Marines.
Park Avenue, DeLong Boulevard, Park at the Lama, the Alberton. Male 4 in a white Honda Civic, California plate 68, John, Robert 575. All alone, windows down, no adult. Format only, no take is 185, St. McCall does return to your current 2019 Honda 4-door, Daniel Smith, or Deontay Barber. 9425 Los Angeles Street, apartment 1 in the city of Bellflower. It'll be in there.
How edgy.
Just making sure you were code 4, sir. I had you key up a couple of times.
Hey, well, all these people are on national TV.
So unit 2800, cruising code 327835, making entry.
Committing vandalism and violence on national TV.
Vehicle eastbound 60 to the north 710. Have a green Mazda van on the right shoulder of the Trans Road.
I heard
Solo
that.
X-ray trying to get up to Agent 2159 PPH. Emma Transient wearing all black and says for stealing merchandise. CP is not allowed to be charged with using illegal check 4-4.
620. You can say 420, I'll be out of position.
628 will be your better position. 420, you got.
crazy. Official, thank you. Yes, 500 Marines have been called in. MTO Creations, thank you for being a member. I've been looking on these other feeds. Folks, we only got about 2 hours and 25 minutes till it gets dark.
Lakewood 135 Adam, your handle 135 Boise assist, 502 901 Steve, 21720 Juan Avenue, a white Silverado CC and parked vehicle, CCS 390 in the distance and height, Alpha Bottle, CCS 5187.
This is live in the streets of Los Angeles. Total anarchy, chaos.
97 Clark and Del Amo. William 1 also 97. Adam 1097 Clark and Del Amo.
Much worse today than yesterday and the day before.
The unit transmitting on dispatch 35, you're unreadable.
Look at that guy's man.
Frank 1097, Ray possible 451594, suspect confirmed.
Information to units on the 23109 and D2, El Segundo and Alameda. Report of approximately 50 vehicles in the area setting up for a takeover at El Segundo and Alameda. No further TNA.
Where is the police?
735 and code 4, Ray Airport.